So, yeah, go inside. And the date is still going good. Too good. And she starts cooking some food for me, and start walking around the house because, again, I just imagined. It's like I imagined this girl before I met her, before I knew she existed. So I'm walking around the house, like, perplexed, like, so this is it? This is home? Like, does it really come this easy? And I'm just studying the house. And again, I'm thinking, no, nothing comes this easy. Something bad's gonna happen. Her threatening to shoot me? No, that's not bad enough. What is it? What's gonna happen? And I start staring just at the front door, staring in the direction I know the mill is. I'm thinking, mill's gonna burn down. And I'm thinking, would it be worth the trade? Thinking, yeah, at this point, kind of hope it does. That'd be a trade worth taking. There's no insurance on the mill, so, I'd be losing out everything I worked for, really. Everything I worked for in my life would be gone, but I'm thinking, no, it'd be worth it. I get a or my phone vibrates as I'm looking out the window, and I go for my phone lightning quick. I'm thinking, then, oh, this is it. This is the text from Rob that the mill's burning down. Like, Rob is my neighbor at the mill, and it was just some stupid notification. I'm thinking, no, it is so bad that your life is like this so consistently. You're this scared. Like, this is bad. Look at the giant map on our wall. Map. I love maps. Covers the whole entire wall. And she has marked of all the places she wants to go to. And I'm thinking, it's gonna be great. I always wanted to travel the world. Reason I never have is left the country exactly is because I'm afraid of cultural differences and language barriers. But that's she's not afraid of that. She's literally a Spanish teacher and speaks multiple languages. It's like this opens up my possibilities of sorry where I could travel. And I was so excited. I showed her my phone now. How on my phone I do the same thing and how I mark all the places in the country that I want to go to. And I'm thinking, wow, I can start marking all those places in other countries I kind of want to go to also now. Anyway, she decides to go for a motorcycle ride because I have the motorcycle loaded up on my truck. And um, I was surprised because it was pretty cold for that. I wasn't sure where she wanted to go to. She says, "Oh, how about High Point?" I was like, "What?" It's like this is perfect. Like, anyway, we're getting ready for the ride, and I give her my best helmet. I give her my best padded jacket. She didn't have a pair of gloves. I was gonna give her mine, and point is, I was trying to protect her with my best stuff, and I was going to insist, no, how about you take my gloves, because, I know crashes, they happen. She insisted she'd be fine, and I was going to force her to wear the gloves. Because I've been in crashes before and never had gloves, and I naturally know to use my elbows. But then I thought about it, I'm like, no, well, it's cold, therefore it's probably more important to have more feeling in my hands. The more feeling I have in my hands, because I'm wearing gloves, the less likely I am to crash in the first place. So I was a little hesitant, but I thought, yeah, I guess I'll be the one wearing the gloves. Okay. Get on, go for the ride, and she hops on. Then I wait there. Waiting. Why isn't she ready? And then I noticed, see, the way my rule, I have taken countless passengers. All my friends have gone for a ride. My rule was that the passenger wraps their arms around me. That way I feel my passenger. When their arms are around me, I can sense their fear. I can tell. It helps me. It makes me connect to the person instead of connecting to the machine. But she didn't, and I turned around and real quick, and I noticed her hands were on the rear grips, and I was gonna turn around again and say, "Hey," and I was like, "No, it's a first date. I'm not gonna force someone to hug me on their first. I'm not gonna force someone to do like a 30-minute long hug on like a first date, right? Like, so I figure, well, okay, I'll just. My nose is running from when I was crying earlier recording this video. Okay. So, I don't say anything. And of course, I'm thinking High Point. I'm like, oh, perfect. Sunrise Mountain Road. Like, that's a fun road. And, so, again, this was weird. Passenger without feeling their body weight, not without feeling their emotions. It's weird. I didn't like it. So, I remember the first stop sign. I was a little bit choppy on the brakes, but it was intentional because one of the things I do when I have a passenger, I don't know how heavy they are, and I need to feel how much of their body weight is going to go into my body when I hit the brakes. And, so I didn't want to just do a random brake test, but I was a little choppy on the brakes, feeling her out. And, oh, okay. Yeah, she's a good passenger. Like, she's not, our helmets aren't hitting from me, like, playing with the brakes. She, okay, none of her body weight is getting transferred through my arms. Okay, interesting. Again, I'm not used to this, but okay. This ain't bad. And it's also going through my head. Yeah, she's listed all these tons of motorcycles she's ridden on, so I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, obviously she's a good passenger if she didn't head bump from that. And of course she's comfortable with anything I would do because, she's been on this many motorcycles, So I go to Sunrise Mountain Road. And I'm remembering how I just had ridden that road a few weeks ago, right? But the last time I rode the road, I was riding with my stopping distance out of sight. So this time I'm like, oh, well, this is great. I have a girl to be friends with, and I'm not going to do crazy things now, and I have no need for that. I have no need to ride that quick. And the whole time, again, the previous time I rode the road, I was riding with stopping distance a little out of sight. This time, I'm going to ride stopping distance within sight the whole time. That way, no matter what happens, I know it's safe. I know it's going to be perfectly safe if I, you know, that was what's going through my head. Make a stop at the pavilion, look at the view a little bit. She decides, hey, it's getting cold, and it's like, okay, yeah, we'll just swing around to my grandparents' house. I want to show her my grandparents' house. That's where I'm at right now, actually. The apartment in their basement right now. They don't rent out, so I'm just kind of stop by, use this whenever I feel like it. So going back down, and if you didn't watch the video about the vision of the crash, this is the time to watch that video. Okay. So I'm thinking about the last time I rode the road and there's a car in front of me. And I think, oh, last time there was a car in front of me, they were going so slow. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to ride really, really slow to let him get some distance in front of me so it doesn't happen like last time where they're stopped in the middle of the road or something, So I'm talking to her. So I'm talking to her. It's even, again, I'm weirded out that I can't feel her. I even touched her leg just to almost a subconscious way to remind myself, like, yes, there's a passenger here. I was riding slow enough so we could talk a little bit. And I explained, yeah, I used to do crazy stuff on this road. I used to practice wheelies back here at night. I used to treat this road like a race course, and that was true. But again, that was only something I did when I was lonely and didn't have a girl to be friends with. So, coming up on the part that I enjoy, and I was about to start to go, but then I noticed I didn't want to scare her. So then I lift up my helmet and I say one last thing. The only reasons I ride at this point are because, one, it's a good gas mileage, which is true because I'm always going back and forth between my work in the mill, which is a 4-hour drive, and $100 in gas a week adds up quick. So motorcycle would save me tons on fuel, and I use motorcycles to do basically DoorDash, food delivery apps on the side. So I used them. So my number one reason for being into motorcycles at that point was fuel economy. I tell her my second reason is their off-roading ability. The fact that you can squeeze between anything, because I'm not a go fast. I've never wanted to be one of those crazy go fast street bike guys. It looks fun, but I recognize that's dangerous. And I needed a friend because I noticed I was slowly inching my way to being one of those people, and I needed it to stop. I recognized that, and explain my third reason. Hard lean angles, as long as it's low speeds, 20, 30 miles an hour, I say. Because, well, I know that if you crash going 20 or 30 miles an hour, there's some time for the bike to come to a stop, and you're probably going to be going a running distance by the time you stop, and everyone's going to be fine. So, that's how I was. That's why I like the Tail of the Dragon Road so much in North Carolina, Tennessee border, because, you can crash, and as long as you're choosing the correct turns to go hard on, you just kind of fall into a ditch and you're all good, depending on the turn. You have to know which turns you can and can't push it on. But I'm saying this to her because I don't want her to think I'm some crazy guy, At the same time, I've only ridden a passenger on a motorcycle, for the most part, once ever. It was actually the road right after Sunrise Mountain Road. And I know from my past experience as a passenger, the only thing I enjoyed was the leaning. And, of course, for my passenger, I want my passenger to experience the same thing that I found fun as a passenger, also the leaning. So, yeah, I finished explaining to her that, hey, like, trying to almost talk myself back. I'm not that crazy, you know. But I was planning on pushing. No, I plan on picking up the pace in the next few turns to get some lean angles because, well, my eyes, if we're not leaning, might as well be doing this doing this little trip in a car because that's how I am. If I'm not leaning, I'd rather be in a car. That's true. So, next few turns, I'm picking up the pace a little bit. And then I come up to this spot. It feels like, and I'm sure I'm keeping stopping distance in sight with the whole time. That's my goal with all these turns. Even though I wanna lean as much as I can, doing everything I can. Make sure stopping distance is in sight. And I come up to this one spot. Again, I hope you watched the previous video of the vision. The road straightens out, opens up. It's like the end of a turn, and it looks like stopping. It looks like the stopping distance is in sight. It is within sight, far away, and it calls me. It all of a sudden my body started to connect to the machine as I started to I started to get into it, and I really started to accelerate. Like, yes, like this is what I was wanting. Like this, yes, like and I feel like my body is connecting to the machine in almost a Zen state, or it's like a meditative state. My body would connect to the machine I was controlling. Very close connection I would have with the machine. But this never happened before with a passenger. I never got that state of mind because this is the first time I had a passenger not touching me. I never entered that state of mind with a passenger because I would feel them instead. And again, I'm thinking she's totally fine with this because, oh, she's ridden so many motorcycles. I mean, this is probably why she enjoys riding too, right? Like, if you're not leaning, might as well be in a car. That's what's going through my head. But all of a sudden, I notice something. I start accelerating. I get that connection to the machine feeling. And then there's a turn. It's a hard turn. It throws me off guard. And I start to slam the brakes. Now again, stopping distance was still in sight. Her body weight slams me for the first time. All of a sudden, it threw off my braking. And I noticed with how hard I'm hitting the brakes and with her throwing me off, my stopping distance is now at the tree ahead of me. It's not on the pavement. My body exits that connection to the machine feeling as I'm feeling my passenger instead. And I'm going harder and harder on the front brake. And I have a moment of target fixation, looking at the tree, and I'm judging my stopping distance as I'm fighting her body weight with my front brake at the same time, having to push back to fight her. And I'm watching my stopping distance decrease, until I notice stopping distance is right in the middle of the turn. And I was so relieved. I was like, I don't know why I didn't recognize this spot. I just rode this road, right? That was weird. And at this point, I'm thinking, well, either I finish the panic stop and I stop in the middle of the road, which is going to make me look bad, or I now transition to my back brake and make the turn and just keep in the back brake because, again, I don't know this turn. I don't know why. And so I start going into the back brake and I start to lean into the turn, and then boom, the back starts hopping violently, bouncing violently, and I don't understand why. Before I know it, I'm sliding on the pavement, and I'm thinking, now to me this wasn't scary. Her threatening to shoot me, that scared me. I'm like, as I'm sliding, I'm thinking, this isn't going to go well. I'm thinking, well, at least we're like going like 20 to 30 miles an hour, so the bike is it's gonna come to a stop in that clearing, and yeah, we're gonna be fine. Okay, just this is gonna look so bad. So we're sliding, and I'm thinking, oh no, I have the gloves. I hope she's not getting road rash right now. I hope she's not touching the pavement. But then, boom, something happens. I find myself airborne for a split second. I don't understand why. I'm like, why am I airborne? And I start to try to look back at her to make sure, like, well, where is she? I'm like almost doing acrobatics in the air, trying to like, again, everything to me, the crash is crystal clear. To her, she was terrified for her life. So at land, I just do a quick systems check. I'm good. Okay. And then I go right away to her, and I think, oh, man, this is gonna like traumatize her. It's so bad, but at least we're gonna be both. At least we're both fine. At least I kept stopping distance in sight, and nothing's gonna happen. All right. It's fine. She's hurt. She has some injury on her leg. And she determines she can't walk or anything. And so first thing she does, she calls someone to pick her up. And I'm just there in that spot, and I'm looking at the skid marks. And something felt familiar, and I was saying things like, I feel like I'm dreaming. I wish I could wake up. Something felt familiar, and I didn't know what it was yet. Then I look at her at one point, and I see a tear going down. And I knew what that meant. And she was disappointed this couldn't work. That's what it meant. I knew it. And then I'm starting to think. I imagined this girl. Just weeks before we met. An abnormal, scary, like weird amount of things were like lining up. And it's over. And again, I was just looking for a friend making the dating profile anyway, so it's like, hey, like, I'm trying to explain to her, like, I hope we can still be friends. That's all I ever expected out of my life. Anyway. So, hard to know where to make the next video. Again, another thing that was going through my head is, what are the chances of all this? Again, it felt like God exists because of how bizarre the situation already was. And then I just crashed when I didn't even think I was riding too hard. Like, what's going on? I'm thinking, what are the chances of this? And I'm thinking, this seems to prove God more. It's like, okay, well, at least the mill's not going to burn down. I know that now. Okay, so this is what it was. I knew something was coming. I knew it. I knew it. Just didn't know what it was yet. I'm thinking, okay, I don't know why this is happening, but for this to happen, after that whole thing of like knowing where she lives and all that, this can't be a coincidence. This is what's going on. And yeah, I think that's enough for this video. This will talk about what happened when went back to her house and the few days following the event.